The Big Footy Port Adelaide podcast is proudly sponsored by New Vision.
My team, kinda power. I love the power. I love the power.
Fine, welcome to the Big Footy Port Adelaide podcast, a show about all things Port Adelaide Footy Club. I'm your host, Macca 19, and joining me as always in the co-host chair, we got Fishing Rick.
Woohoo, Macca. How you going, mate?
Mate, very good. How's things?
Yes. Oh, very good too. Exciting.
That's it. Another week in paradise.
Oh, yeah. Another week closer to 2015 season.
Can't wait. Bring it on.
Yes.
And back on the podcast tonight, a fellow moderator in Forzaport.
Good evening, Macca. Good evening, Rick. Happy to be here. Love this time of year. A lot of player movement, a lot of list changes. Exciting times. So it's almost more exciting than the season sometimes.
It is. It's very interesting. I do love this time of year. Well, speaking of list changes, we might as well have a quick chat because we've made a few more final list changes, I think. So Brendan Archie gets another one-year contract, which is fantastic news for one of our friends at the podcast. He was also one of our 2014 player sponsors on Big Footy as well, so that's great news for him. We say goodbye to Lewis Stevenson, which probably isn't that much of a surprise. We say a bit of a temporary goodbye to Tom Logan. It seems like our plan is to redraft him onto the rookie list. And Kane Mitchell gets upgraded to the senior list as well, which I think is a wonderful story of persistence.
Yeah, it's terrific news for Kane. He's he's not the most skillful player at the club, but he's certainly one of the hardest working and hardest running players, and he certainly does add that extra dimension to our team when he plays as a sub or when he's fortunate enough to get a full game. So good on him.
Yep.
Yeah, like it or not, you can't hold it against him for getting a spot on the list. He's obviously worked hard and, he's got the respect of the coaches. So, kudos to him. And I think it would be good to give Tommy Logan another year if he's happy enough and proud enough to take that rookie list spot. But I think it's worth keeping on there. And it's sort of a break glass and emergency type decision, isn't it?
He's a fine depth player, and as we mentioned last week when we did his player reviews, his AFL games last year was actually quite good.
Yeah, he only got, I think, three games, but in each of those games he was solid, reliable, and definitely played his role very well.
That's it. I do like Kane Mitchell getting upgraded to the senior list. As I said, I think it's a wonderful story of persistence. I think he's a really well-liked member of our playing group as well amongst his fellow teammates. And it just shows that, if you work hard, you knuckle down and you work hard, good things can come your way.
It's also the hard work over talent as well. Ideally you want players with a lot of talent, but it's the ones that work hard are the ones that have better chance of succeeding.
Yeah,
so,
that's right.
Very happy for him.
Indeed. And there is one more list change that we had to make, which was Ben Newton, delisting himself really. He's chosen to go against signing a contract. He's going to go into the national draft. And look, I think for me, you can't really begrudge someone seeking more opportunities, as I don't think he's going to get them with us.
I guess he was that Brad Symes, Adam Thompson, Mitch Banner kind of player for us this year, where he was always on the cusp and he never really got a decent run at AFL level. And when he did get games, I think half the time he was sub. So he didn't really get that opportunity to show what he can do at the top level. And, I'm sure there's a club out there that's already got an agreement in place with him, and mystery will be solved soon enough. I'm guessing it's probably North or Geelong, but yeah, good luck to him.
Mm.
We were looking for more picks, though. I guess the question has to be asked: why couldn't we get a pick for him in the draft, in the trade period?
I guess it's a fair question. I'm unsure though. I mean, there was a lot of talk that a few clubs were interested in him, but a deal didn't get done. There was a lot of talk about Geelong, but maybe they didn't want to give us a pick. Maybe they realised that they could get him pretty cheap, with the last pick of a draft or something like that. So I guess we'll see what happens. Hopefully he hasn't done a Ryan Davis, which was a former West Coast player who decided not to sign a West Coast contract and ended up not getting drafted at all by anyone else. So hopefully he hasn't sort of foobarred himself there, but I guess we'll wait and see. I think he does deserve to play regular AFL footy. With our first team and also guys like Andrew Moore and Aaron Young in front of him, he was never going to become a regular sort of first 22 player with us, I don't believe. It was always going to be down to injury. So look, if he can find a place, and it might be someone like a Melbourne or a St Kilda, if he can find a place where he can play 15 to 20 games a year, good on him.
Absolutely. I think Kane was saying that if he doesn't get drafted, Port will look to redraft him. But I don't know. I definitely think there's another club out there that's got their sights on him.
Yeah,
there has to be.
There has to.
You would think so. Yeah,
that'd be crazy. Not taking a contract to speculate.
And I guess the other thing to talk about is Port Adelaide. It looks like Port Adelaide's going to be hosting Hawthorn on ANZAC Day next year. How good's that game got to be?
Oh, that's going to be an absolute ripper. Really looking forward to it. The Hawthorn game this year, going down by 3 points at the end, was quite devastating in many ways, even though we're proud of the season we had. Just to have another crack at them, because they're really going to be the team to beat next year, without a doubt. They're going to be the team to beat. So we get them on our home turf. Looking forward to it. Early in the season too, which is even better.
Yep, absolutely.
What about the whole ANZAC Day fixture? It's going to be a blockbuster. 5 games on ANZAC Day.
It's going to be huge.
Oh yeah, what better way to reflect on the ANZACs and to play 5 games of football?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's fantastic, and it's rewarding all the other teams.
We got the power to win, power to roll. Come on, Port Adelaide aggression. We are the power from Port.
All right, well, on to the next week of our player reviews. We've got another 8 or 9 players to review this week. The first one is Andrew Moore, who's 23 years old. He's played 50 games. He played just the 9 AFL games this year for 13 disposals and 2 tackles a game. Finished 28th in the best and fairest. He also played 8 SANFL games this year for 25 disposals, 6 marks and 1.5 goals a game. For me, it's not necessarily his fault, but I thought he was our most disappointing player this year.
Oh, ouch.
Big call.
Big call, fair call, I reckon. And I'll explain why in a minute.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to hear what your thoughts on that, Macca, because okay, well, first of all, Moore was one of my buddies for this year, so I did keep it close.
Fight hard then, Forza. Come on.
Well, it's Moore's that player where every year you're like, this bloke's going to have a big year. It's his time. He's going to come out. He's going to take the competition by storm. He's that big body midfielder. He's going to be doing what Wines has been doing, really, and Wines is only in his second year. But you get to pre-season, and he has a great pre-season, and then he gets injured.
Yep.
At the tail end, and that pretty much cost him the first 3 games. He was out with injury, and the team was so strong that he spent the next 5-6 weeks at SANFL level because he couldn't crack the AFL team, and then he gets in the team at the Melbourne game in round 11. Plays all right, first AFL game of the year, plays all right. Then, does he get injured again in training? Was it shortly after?
Yeah, I think he did his shoulder again that game, and that's pretty much why, for me, he was the most disappointing player for 2014 for Port Adelaide. And as I said, I don't think it's necessarily his fault. I think his body let him down a bit. I had him in pre-season as our most improved player. I thought he was really going to do some big things this year, especially after his back end of 2013, which I thought was really, really good. But injuries just ruined him. I mean, I thought he had a really good pre-season. Then he gets injured in the last game, as you said, misses a month, comes back, gets injured again. Plays against Melbourne, does his shoulder in his first AFL game back, misses another month. And then after that, he just looked far too timid and almost unprepared to put his body on the line late in the year. I'm not saying he's soft, I just thought that there was a few occasions where he looked to protect himself. So yeah, it was just one of those sort of missed opportunities as a season as a whole, I thought, for him.
He got rewarded by the coaches, though. He strung a few games together in the second half of the season.
No doubt.
And he looked like a player that was lacking a bit of confidence in his body. That's what I thought. And I guess the heat's going to be on him for 2015 because he's going to be physically mature. And it's not even about where he was drafted. It's just he's showing enough potential that he's got the goods to do it. So hopefully his body can hold up and he can deliver a fantastic 2015 season.
That's it. I think there's no doubt he's part of our best 22. I like him as that sort of bench midfielder coming on. And as we saw last year, he was so good in the clinches, so good at getting clearances and winning tackles and all those sort of things. But I guess the big question is, can he become that player that we do expect him to become? Can he develop into a first 18, a first string midfielder?
I think he can. I think he still can. He's he shows enough to suggest that he can. This year he had those 2 stints out with injury, but when he came back in the last 8 games, he held his spot, and he came on as sub a few of those games, and made a huge difference as fresh legs and a big body to help us really wheel the ball forward, especially in the finals. I think he was one of the helping reasons behind our comebacks against Freo and Hawthorn.
Yep.
It's a matter of where is he supposed to fit into this side. I guess that's the conjecture that a lot of fans still have as well, because I always thought he might be like an Ollie Wines type sort of player, but he hasn't really sort of developed into that sort of player, and other people were modelling him on, say, Ryan O'Keefe at a half-forward flank, and I just feel like he hasn't really cemented his spot in the side, which is, hey, this is my spot, this is where I dominate the play, and this is where I want to play.
I do like him in the side. I think next year, hopefully, it's going to be his year. But I've just got a sinking feeling that I'm going to be saying that for the next sort of 2 or 3 years.
I think he had been saying that for the past 2 or 3 years as well.
I mean, maybe he will always be that sort of nearly there player.
He might be, but also if you look at the SANFL, he's one of the main men.
Mm.
He's one of the prime movers at SANFL level when he's playing there. At the AFL level, you got Hartlett, Wines, Boak, Ebert, Gray, all rotating through the middle. He sort of gets pushed down the order a bit, and he sort of has to play that O'Keefe role to an extent where he's sort of floating around the half forward area more than what we probably would like him to.
Well, next player, Jakey Need, 20 years old, 24 games. He played 8 AFL games this year for 11 disposals and 1.25 goals a game. He finished 24th in the best and fairest. He also played 14 SANFL games this year for 15 disposals and 1.5 goals a game. He was one that had a pretty slow start to the season, had a pretty poor pre-season, but had such a fantastic finish to 2014.
He's a phenomenal pocket rocket, super talented small forward. He's also, out of all the players on the list for this year, he's the one player where you have the classic example of a kid in his second year?
Yep.
His second year, not going his way. The coach just set him a target. He works on those and reaching those targets, and then you just see the form change, and then he earns that AFL selection and he holds his spot all throughout the finals. It's just a terrific story of his season that he was able to take a season that was looking a bit poor to something that was phenomenal in the end for him.
That's right. I mean, he played that one game against Melbourne in round 11 where he kicked a goal but didn't really do much, and it almost looked like we wouldn't see him again for the rest of the season. They might have kept him in the SANFL, but his form at the SANFL level became too good to ignore. Came back in against Sydney, kicked a couple of goals and stayed in the side for the rest of the year. Had another great game against Carlton where he kicked 3 goals. And of course, his final series was just electric. I mean, 3 goals against Richmond in the elimination final at Footy Park at Adelaide Oval was just phenomenal. And he was one of the match winners against Freo in the second half in the semi-final as well.
Oh yeah, some of the plays he was involved in that Richmond game were just outstanding.
Incredible.
Kicking a goal from 50, knocking players on their asses, and just up. 2-0 bully. It was phenomenal.
Well, he looked like he wasn't going to play at all this year, really, didn't he? I wasn't expecting any games from him at all. And but you could see sort of halfway through the season with some of the SANFL games that he was starting to gain some confidence. And it wasn't necessarily about what he was doing with the ball, but it was sort of just his behaviour on the field. You could see that he started interacting and had that confidence to interact with the players more and sort of stand up a little bit and go, and start pointing directions where people should be, including himself. And obviously that confidence translated in the performances. And I'm a big fan of Jake because I just think that's the beauty of AFL football, that a person of his size can still be influential in the game. And it doesn't have to be just the guys at 190 centimetres plus, even though they seem to command most of the attention these days. But, those little guys like him and Ballantyne have a place now because I think they can take advantage of the big guys in a way and sort of maximise the high free kicks just due to their size and stature.
Yep.
But he's got the courage to put his body in the positions to get the free kicks at the same time.
Indeed. I mean, you mentioned his plays against bigger bodies, and certainly that bump on Dustin Martin in the first couple of minutes of that elimination final, which led to our second goal, was, in my view, one of the plays of the year.
It was. That was right up there.
Yeah, he took the game on. A player of that stature really needs a big bag of tricks to succeed at AFL level, and he's pretty much got them all, really.
You go,
Sorry,
Mac.
Mac, I was just going to say, I thought that round 23 game against Freo, where he sort of did get whacked a bit, to me it looked like he learnt from it. He really took away from that game where these guys really are impacting the body before the ball or to get the ball. And it's almost like he took something away from that game and implemented it the following week against Richmond, and he did it in a fantastic style.
I think, if he keeps up the kind of form and work rate that he had in the last third of the year, he'll definitely hold a spot in the 22. But he's one player that can fall out for someone like a Young or a Moore to really cement themselves in the team. So he's really got to work hard to show the coaches that he deserves to be in the 22.
Yep. All right, next player is Benny Newton. We've already spoken a little bit about him. He's 22 years old, played 4 AFL games this season. He also played 16 SANFL games for 24 disposals, 5 marks, and a goal a game. He finished 30th in the best and fairest at AFL level, and second at the Magpies in the best and fairest. I thought this year he really showed why we drafted him, but he just couldn't get a look in despite some pretty impressive SANFL form.
Yeah, he was really phenomenal at SANFL level. He was I've got 16 games during the season, and he ranked in the best players 13 times. So he had a super year at SANFL level. I've got here in my notes, will he be here with us in 2015? And obviously the answer is looking like a no. Probably not.
You would think so.
But yeah, he was emergency 13 times. He played 2 full games, but they weren't the best games to play. He played against GWS when it was pouring rain and wasn't the best game, and then he played against Collingwood when half the team was out with a virus. So his full games weren't really fair to him in terms of the conditions and the team performance.
Yep.
But yeah, it's good on him for seeking more opportunities and hopefully ending up at a club that's going to give him those opportunities.
That's right. His SANFL form, especially to start the season, was something to behold. In the first sort of 5 or 6 weeks, he was averaging about 30 disposals, 10 marks and 3 goals a game for a while there. He was just absolutely flooring everybody. He did slow down as the season went on, and I thought his final series was pretty disappointing outside of the first final against Norwood, where he had 25 touches and 2 goals. But his final 2 finals were probably let him down a little bit, I thought.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, Macca.
Yeah, you get the feeling that he's just disappointed that he wasn't getting AFL time, and yeah, that's the sort of mental barriers you have to break through just to keep pushing. That probably weighed on his mind a bit, I reckon.
Yeah. All right, next player is Cameron O'Shea. He's also 22 years old, played 58 games. He played 14 games at AFL level this year for 19 disposals, 5 marks, 2.5 rebounds a game. Finished 21st in our best and fairest. Also played 10 SANFL games for 20 disposals, and 5.5 marks a game. He was probably similar to Jakey Need in that I thought he had a pretty poor start to the season. He missed out in round one. He came back into the side mid-season and didn't really look back. I thought he had a really good end to the year.
Yeah, I think O'Shea is a bit unfortunate in that he probably lost his spot to Homsch, who really cemented his spot in the 22 as that third defender, the chop out spoiling defender. And then also with the club recruiting Impey for that small defender role, O'Shea really found himself as the eighth player. So he got a couple of games early on, but once the first choice players returned, he sort of found himself wallowing in the SANFL. And it wasn't until Carlisle and Trengo both went down that he got his opportunity to come in and probably have to play a role that's probably asking a bit of him to be that second tall defender, but he did it well, and then he held his spot, and he sort of forced Impey out a bit for the rest of the year, and he became that seventh defender that was a hard running defender with the intercept marks to match. But yeah, his season did improve as it got on towards the end, and he was an important finals cog for us as well.
For me, his best games came against probably Collingwood and Essendon when he came back into the side. Also had a really good game against Carlton in round 22 as well, in a solid final series. Do we see him as part of our first 22 now as well?
See, that's tough. You know, it's if you're playing O'Shea, it sort of pushes Impey out a bit, or you have to upset the Pittard, Broadbent, Jonas trio there as well. So it's tough. I would like to see him in there. I think he's definitely an AFL standard player, but yeah, it's quite a squeeze in the back lines.
You go, mate.
What was the rumour with him, Macca? Was there a rumour he was out for disciplinary reasons or injury or something at the start of the season?
The rumour was that he had osteitis pubis to start the year, and that's why he missed out early on. But then he was still playing at SANFL level, still played a couple of games early at AFL level as well. So, I mean, generally, if you've got osteitis pubis, you tend to miss games altogether instead of continuing to play them. So, I don't know if that was a bit of a furphy or if it was true or not, and maybe it does explain why he did miss out early on in the year. I guess there was a lot of rumours that he was going to be traded to St Kilda, which ended up being false. He even came out on Twitter and said that it was a pile of rubbish, that he never looked to leave the club. For me, he's one of my favourite players, so I want him in the side every week. I think he's a fantastic player and adds so much to our side. But as you said, Forza, someone's got to give there because there's probably 8 players trying to squeeze into 7.
Yeah, there is. There's 8 AFL standard players, and there's just we just don't have the space for him. Or if someone else will miss out.
Yep.
Yeah, but I mean, you get injuries, and that's why you need the depth, and he's going to be around that 16 to 24 mark, I would imagine, on our list. So he'll get his opportunities when they come.
No doubt. All right, next player, Jasper Pittard. He played all right this year.
Yes,
I think that's all we need to talk about that. Jared Polek, 21 years.
Hey, what are you doing? You're lucky I let you slide where he should have been in the ends. Macmillan Pittard. He's still JMP, really.
He is. He dropped the Macmillan. I think the Macmillan was probably the more talented side of the duo. But he's now known as Jasper Pittard. His stats: 23 years old, played 56 games, played all 25 games this year, which is fantastic for him. Finished a lowly 17th in the best and fairest. I think he probably deserved to be a little bit higher than that. He averaged 16 disposals, 4 marks, and 3.5 rebounds a game. Thought he had quite a solid start to the year. A couple of horror games in the middle. But then he became pretty much our most reliable defender in the second half of the season.
I thought he was a bit of a rascal as well. Bob's rascal. He started getting into people's faces as the season went on, and I thought the turning point for him was probably the Sydney game at the SCG. And after that game, he really showed a lot of composure and used the ball very well, and was still able to provide his run and carry with the ball. And he has some bloody fantastic games there, Macca, I tell you.
And his filthy moustache.
Oh,
Yeah, that's a dirty moustache.
It is a very dirty moustache.
That is dirty.
Eddie Sanchez.
That is dirty.
Absolutely filthy, as was his game against Sydney at the SCG. It was an absolute nightmare. To his credit, he did come good after that, especially the following week. It was just about his best game of the year against the Bulldogs, I thought, in round 14. He also had very good games against the Crows in round 15, round 16 against Essendon, and probably his best game of footy was round 22 against Carlton, and also the semi-final against Freo as well.
There's a few good games there.
He did. He was, as I said, he was just about our most reliable defender. He kind of ironed out those, those face-palm moments that he was known for in years gone by, and he's really starting to show why he was drafted so early.
Yeah, I think his confidence will keep improving. The one thing that really stands out with Pittard, apart from when his kicks go astray, it's usually because he doesn't have a decent target these days, as opposed to trying to do too much. He just doesn't have a decent option to kick to. But the one thing that he does now that really scares me quite a bit is his bouncing. More than once he went for a run, bounced the ball, and it just didn't come back to him.
Yeah. No. Don't blame Pittard for that. That's Adelaide Oval. It's disgraceful. It's just, it's not Pittard at all. It's just Adelaide Oval. I can't even believe you're going there, Forza. That's just outrageous.
Didn't that happen at the SCG as well?
I think so.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Probably the MCG as well, I think.
It didn't happen at Freo, for sure. I can remember. No, don't remember any dodgy bounces there.
He is a bit of a heart and mouth type player, but he, when he's on, the way he can hit up a target and just open us up so we can, end up in a scoring position is just phenomenal.
Yeah.
Kudos to him. He keeps going at it. And it is interesting. I noticed that sitting behind the goals at the southern end for the Essendon game, there was a couple of occasions where he did take the bounce and he did run, and he sort of ran into a position where he's obviously got no right foot, but he was sort of left with no choice but to kick it on the right. So he sort of boxed himself in a corner. But I think what you said earlier was pertinent, Forza, with the fact that I think a lot of the times as supporters, we see that there's no options for him up the ground, and obviously he's trying to hold the ball and try and get an option coming to him instead of just burning the ball over. So that probably makes him look a little bit silly at times as well. But, I mean, the thing that I like is the fact that every man there dog bagged the shit out of him at the start of the season. And by the end of the season, he had a bit of Tommy Logan about him where everyone was sort of supporting him, and there was far less criticism on the boards and everywhere else. So people were starting to be won over by the Jasper man.
All right. Well, next player, Jared Polec, 21 years old, 40 games. His first year at Port Adelaide in 2014. Played 24 games, averaged 19.5 disposals, 3 marks, and a couple of bounces a game. Finished 15th in the best and fairest. What a season for Jared Polec.
Absolutely silky smooth left foot. Creates so much run and carry. And the way he just hits up out, there's 50 this year, and his shots on goal are just something to behold. And he did it all year, didn't miss a beat. So all this talk about being injury prone, the commitment, does he work hard enough? All those question marks are on him at the start of the preseason once we traded him in, and once that 3-kilometre time trial started, all those question marks, and he just said, "No, I'm going to have a great year," and he did, and well done to him.
Absolutely. I mean, there was talk that he got blasted after his first training run, that 3-kilometre time trial that you mentioned. But look, he went bang from the first pre-season game against the Crows. He was pretty much our best player. He followed that up with being best on ground again the following week against Essendon. And then he took that into the season proper itself and just went bang from round 1. That massive goal at the end against Carlton, had a huge game against the Crows in round 2, and he didn't really look back.
He's also that kind of player that can bob up for about 3 minutes and just be absolutely devastating, where he just kicks 2 goals in the blink of an eye, and before you know it, the team's on a 5-goal run or something. He just has that ability to
Yep.
really devastate over a real short period of time.
He's a momentum starter.
Oh yeah.
You can give Darren Burgess some credit here too, I think, as well, because you could say the same thing about Pittard before Polak. A lot of these guys weren't able to string a season together without having to sit out for injuries, and these guys now are, playing 25 or 24 games in a season, first time ever. So credit to them, and there's no better sight than seeing Polak running through to the ball from the half-back flank and delivering inside 50, is there?
No, absolutely not. I mean, he's got the best skills in our side by an absolute mile, I think. His foot skills are just phenomenal. We always heard from Jonathan Brown that he rates Jared Polak as the best kick on a lead that he ever played with. And you can see why. I mean, he just hit targets with pretty much ease inside 50 all year. And the run and carry he creates on the wing and even coming out of defence as well was very, very important. But I think the part of his game that I was really impressed with was his hardness. He was a lot harder at the ball and a lot better inside than I thought he would be.
Yeah, we're led to believe that he didn't really have much of an inside game at all. And he comes along and he certainly puts his head over the ball when it's his turn, and that was terrific to see.
Can only get better. How good's his kicking off the outside of his left boot?
Very creative. Very creative. And I think the best thing about him as well is that he's pretty much a big game player. I thought his best games were probably against Hawthorn in round 10. I thought he was fantastic in the elimination final against Richmond as well. And both showdowns he came to play as well.
Yeah, he certainly had he had a few ups and downs, which is to be expected from a young player playing his first full season. But his ups were definitely very, very good, and his downs weren't. It was a bit quiet, but they weren't poor by any stretch of the imagination.
Well, look, next player, Jared Redden, 23-year-old ruckman. He hasn't played a single game at any level for 18 months now with constant sort of hip and knee injuries. It's quite clear he's got talent. He was number one ruck when he did get injured, but he just seems to be perpetually injured. And personally, I'm not sure I've got faith in his body.
This is the thing with Redden. He was our number one choice ruck until he went down with injury and Loeb came in. And at the time, we didn't know whether Loeb would make it as a player, and he practically showed us that yes, he will, and he'd be a great ruckman for us. But Redden, I always saw him as, just has to get over this one injury, get his run, and then, he'll be right. And then it was, I think it was Hinckley. I think it was during a radio interview. He basically said, "Oh, I'm worried about Redden," and that's when it really sort of hit me that, Redden next year might be his last year, and he may not actually have the body to take him through a full AFL career, which would be absolutely devastating, especially for someone of his talent and ability.
I think the key is you've got to control him from here on in and not let him overexert himself and give his body enough time to recover. If they can manage him correctly, I can't see why he can't overcome those obstacles. It probably slimmed down a little bit because he is a big boy for a ruckman, so maybe dropping a few kilos might help his joints as well. But I've still got optimism. I'm not unrealistic. I don't think we should be expecting him to be playing come round one, but hopefully he can just get some solid form and confidence in the SANFL, and you never know what can happen by the end of the season, I guess. And drafting Paddy Ryder is going to sort of help take that pressure off him as well.
Yeah, he's going to be one of the slow burners moving forward. So we're definitely going to have other ruckmen that can come in as backup, because we may not see him at any level for a fair while. It might take him quite a while to get back to full fitness.
He's never played more than 6 games in a row at any level. which is pretty poor. I mean, it shows that he's had a lot of injuries. He's had a lot of hamstring injuries as well throughout the years. It is a real shame because I think he's got a lot of talent. I think he's a fantastic tap ruckman. He can take a good mark. We know at SANFL level he can play up forward and kick a bag of goals as well. If we had him fit this year, we could have easily gone all the way.
Definitely. That extra tall player in the ruck and up forward would have made such a huge... And he's the player that... He's kind of player that he wins, In the ruck, he wins more often than not. In the forward lines, he's such a big boy that he takes those contested marks. What was it? Was it 2000... when was it? Mid last year?
Mid last year against the Bulldogs.
Yeah, he was just such a dominant player. It's just a shame he didn't have the tank to really play out the full game. But you can see when he's got his breath with him, he's just so dominant for us. So I think we will persist with him for a farewell yet until it's absolutely clear the body's not going to hold up.
No doubt. Fingers crossed as well. He's another of our 2014 player sponsors on Big Footy, so no doubt everyone on our board wishes him all the best for 2015 and beyond.
Absolutely.
Another ruckman, Brent Renouf, 26 years old, played 68 games, just the one AFL game this year and 5 SANFL games. Had a reasonable start to the season at SANFL level, played the one game against Freo, against Sandilands, got dropped the week after that and did his knee at Prospect that game, and of course was delisted at the end of the year after only 16 games in 3 years for Port Adelaide.
Well, yeah, the one game he got was really as a battering ram instead of an actual ruckman. But it's just a shame that knee never really recovered from the day he was traded into the club. I was going through his profile on Club 1870, and one of the first articles that I posted in his player thread was that he's declared over his knee injury and he's ready to go. And if he was, he'd be a very handy backup ruckman. He never quite had the pace to really run around the ground the way the modern ruckmen do, but he definitely would have been a handy tap ruckman as a backup for us had the knee held up.
I mean, I think we traded him in so that he could be our first ruck, because Lobie hadn't established himself yet and Redden hadn't played a game either. So it's a bit unfortunate that he just couldn't have a fair run at it here.
Yeah, and this is the thing with all our ruckmen, that Lobie and Redden, like Lobie had 2 years of long-term injuries. Redden's going through those long-term injuries now, and Renouf practically had injuries since the day he was traded in. So it's just been really unfortunate for our ruck division ever since Renouf came in.
Hawthorn got the win over us with that trade, didn't they?
Yes.
They covered up that used car pretty well.
They did.
But
they also drafted pretty quickly.
Yeah, they got Brad Hill for him. So definite win for Hawthorn there.
He just seemed. I was really disappointed with the one thing from him was his aggression, because I always thought coming across that his reputation was being a really aggressive player, and I just didn't really see that, to be honest. And again, it might come down to confidence on the footy field with his body, and maybe that's what was letting him down. But we sort of, with both of those ruckmen, it sort of hurt us over the last few years. So hopefully we're not burnt by the ruckman curse and not missing Paddy Ryder for too many games in 2015.
No, I think we've definitely sorted our first up ruck division issues, at least the immediate ones. But there's certainly depth issues that present themselves now that Renouf has left the club and Redden's going to be on the sidelines. So there's definitely a crying need for
what are we going to do if Ryder's out for until halfway through the season?
Well, we've clearly got to draft another ruckman.
Yeah, without a doubt. But we played all this year with one ruckman for most of the year, so I wouldn't see it as a big issue if Ryder misses the first few games. I don't expect him to miss half a season, but if he does, we'll manage.
Well, I think it can go either one or two ways. I reckon it might be either 6 months or maybe even 2 years, which could be quite disastrous for us if that's the case. And I'm with Macca. We probably need to draft 2 ruckmen, maybe a mature age ruckman and a junior development ruckman.
Oh yeah, I'm expecting us to draft at least 2 ruckmen. I think 2 years is a pretty low percentage play. It's the players, like, without sidetracking too much, it seems the players were, they put their trust in the wrong people, and they were duped to an extent, and there is a bit of leniency when it comes to these sort of things. That the players weren't active in trying to breach the code. They just trusted the wrong people.
Yeah.
That's why they're going to get absolutely smashed if there's any guilty verdicts that come of the players.
Yeah. I don't think we need to draft 2 ruckmen. I think one's probably fair enough, but
You wouldn't look for a mature ager and a junior?
I would probably look at drafting a junior, someone like Darcy Cameron or someone like Josh Miller, someone like that.
To be honest, at this point, I wouldn't be surprised if you saw McKernan on the list. As scary as that is.
Don't make me sad, Forza.
Good old elbows.
Oh, I could not imagine the horror in watching McKernan run around in a Port Guernsey. All right, last player that we're going to review this evening is 18-year-old Sam Russell, who's a small defender. He was the youngest player in the AFL this year, I believe. Played just the 8 SANFL games for 8 disposals and 2 marks a game. Had a pretty good pre-season, but then ripped a hamstring and missed 3 months of footy with that hamstring injury.
He's still 18, Sam Russell. It's that's how young he is.
I think he's got a bit of a future. I think he's just got to find some attacking side of his game. I think defensively he's very, very good. He's a very good spoiler. He's got a lot of pace, so he can shut down leads and that sort of thing. He's just not very good at winning the ball at this point.
Well, we really need another sort of small lockdown defender on the list to come through the ranks, because we were sort of exposed a little bit there. So with only Impey really at our disposal, so hopefully he can come on and show some promise next year.
Well, that's it. Another year, another pre-season. He's already pretty bulky as it is, so I think another pre-season he should slim down a little bit, get his fitness up, get his tank up, find a bit more of the ball, and you never know, he might become a very good player next year for Port Adelaide. All right, boys, well, we might leave it there for this evening. Forza, thanks very much for coming back on.
Happy to be on as always.
That's the way. And Rick, mate.
Done well, fellas.
Until next week.
Love you, Dom.
Love you, Dom.
Love you, Dom.
One last hurrah. Loads up. They need a mark and then a goal. Westhoff almost. Motlop couldn't quite. Enright. Good tackle. Cassisi to win it. Cassisi does win it.